welcome to New Game Plus. I'm Tim, I'm joined by Donald. How are you?
You know what? I don't think how I feel matters right now because we are in the midst of the Dota Major. So, you know what, Tim? I'm just going to let you talk about Dota and esports for the next minute or so. I go.
Yes, so the Shanghai Major is happening as we're filming. It's group stages at the moment, but by the time this airs, we'll be well into the main event. I'll be watching lots of it on Twitch and YouTube and wherever it's streamed nowadays. So if you want to watch some top quality Dota, be sure to tune in. But that's not the only esports that's happening this weekend. We've just had the North American qualifiers for the Counter-Strike Go Major as well, with almost an Australian team getting a freebie invite with some visa issues from the Mongolian team. But not to be topped off with other issues, the StarCraft 2 WCS Championship. There's been an issue with an Australian player, King Kong, who's been here for 4 years but isn't an Australian resident, had his seed removed because he is not a representative of Oceania.
Actually, what is up with that?
Yeah, that is very odd. But, I mean, it's the new WCS ruling to stop, Korean players playing in a weaker region. But I think King Kong is well and truly an Australian, so it's sad to see that happen.
And in our nature, we will claim him at any single opportunity possible. We'll do it with Hollywood Star, so why not?
But this week, we do have news from you.
Yes, we also have a review of The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes.
And Old Game Plus, take a look at Oddworld.
But let's get straight to a review of Naruto.
Now, Shane, we've been doing this a long time. If I said to you, name my least favorite anime series or manga, what would you say?
Attack on Titan. Oh wait, that's me.
That's you, yeah.
Naruto.
You'd be correct. It is Naruto.
Yep.
Very good answer. I've never been a fan of the series in any way.
Yep.
Like, the fan base is the worst.
Yep.
The actual series is the worst.
Yep.
Sasuke's a little, don't even get me started. Anyway.
Yeah, well.
But I've always, in the same way, like tennis. I won't watch tennis. I think people who play tennis are lame. But I will play a tennis video game.
Okay.
And I will do the same for Naruto. Like, I played a lot of Ultimate Storm 2, and we're at Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 now.
Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4.
And this one has Boruto, which makes me care even less because I think that's such a contrived mechanism. But, Naruto 4, come on.
He's always been a contrived Naruto. He doesn't even matter. He's got his own movie. No one even cares.
Yeah, that's true. But I guess the big thing about the game is it's always played pretty solidly.
Yeah.
It took that kind of Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi / Budokai engine, tweaked it, made it its own thing with all the jutsus and stuff like that. And it's always been a pretty solid brawler.
It's always been a good brawl. It's always had its issues with some of the combat and stuff. And it's always been, I guess, a little bit more complex than your Dragon Ball games. But in this one, they've made things a little bit different. They've kept some of the things that everyone liked, like the support characters. There's no more support characters episode. Every character is playable.
Yeah, right.
But everyone still can be a support. They've added a thing called a leader change, which basically changes who you're actually fighting as. So you pick your main character and then you pick your 2 supports.
Yeah.
But with leader change, you can have one of those supports as your main character during the fight.
Yeah, right.
And with that, it changes how you can counter substitution jutsus. It changes how you can extend combos. It's added a lot of it to a lot more complex, I guess, to the game
So
itself.
it's kind of gone the other way. A lot of those games tend to simplify it as it gets more popular.
Yeah.
This seems to have actually honed the fighting. Normally when they get popular, they make them easier for people to access. This has actually taken it and added more layers.
It's added more layers. It's taken a few that I didn't personally like. I think there's 3 different types of you can choose for your supers and stuff.
Yeah.
They've changed that. They've made it basically everyone's the same. It's added a lot more, I guess, complexity. The story mode is probably the main feature that everyone's going to enjoy, and it's done very, very well. Spoilers, I guess, for the anime, but who really cares anymore?
Correct.
Now, Charlotte, when you think of Shin Megami Tensei, you think of the flagship series, you think of Persona. Not a lot of love is given to the Devil Survivor series, unfortunately, but
it really should, because this is my first experience with the series, and it is one of my favorite games, I think.
And that is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker. And forgive the mouthful of title there, but this is the strategy RPG spin-off of the Shin Megami Tensei series. It's a lot more kind of centric with
with a lot of like movement, placement, and something you'd expect from a tactics ogre similar type of game.
Yeah, for sure. That's a very important part of the gameplay. You've got to make sure you position everyone correctly. You've got to make sure they've got good demons attached to them. The basic premise of the game is that Tokyo has just been, or actually all of Japan has been destroyed by like this giant earthquake or calamity. And the main characters are basically looking to find out why. It seems pretty basic, but the execution, the characters are excellent, the plot is fantastic. The voice acting is absolute top notch. Like, I can't express just how incredible this game is.
So the gameplay in particular, it is a lot harder, and I guess this is why it doesn't get as much attention as something like Persona, is that it is not as accessible compared to the other Shin Megami Tensei games. It's very difficult, like as you mentioned before, placement aside from the usual trademark Shin Megami Tensei combat is there, from negotiating with demons and getting them to join your flock.
Well, actually, in this one, you don't negotiate, you just buy them. At an auction.
Auctions,
so this one's they also, the one thing to make it more accessible is that they did add a sort of easy mode that makes it much easier for people to get into. More money, more experience, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I guess it's like, out of all games, if you want people to be introduced to this series as well, like jumping into the second game, I mean, it's kind of a self-contained story and narrative, so you can jump straight in without playing the original Devil Survivor. But if you really want to appreciate the nuances of Devil Survivor 2 and how far the series has come, this one's definitely highly recommended.
Yep, and this is an excellent game. It's one of the few I'd actually recommend to just about anyone who would ask me about it. Very good game.
A couple of weeks ago, Capcom finally released its hotly anticipated game, Street Fighter V. Now, people were expecting the big epic day one battles to be between Ryu and M. Bison. However, they ended up being between the players and the servers. And boy, oh boy, did the servers lose out on this one. Heck, even right now, a week after the game was released, we're still seeing issues where players aren't getting their ranked matches being recorded. And that's totally the excuse I'm using to justify the complete lack of wins on my account. No, I totally won. It was the bugs. Yeah, I totally beat that guy with that fatality? But this wasn't even the only game in February to come out slightly broken. XCOM 2 launched with a swath of performance issues. People had to get creative with their workarounds.
If we now press the cap locks button, once this loading screen pops up, it's gonna go
press it
quicker. Oh my, okay, so it looks like it's frozen, which isn't great. And then
oh my god.
Yes, Eurogamer found that you could significantly cut the loading times on the mission results screen just by pressing the caps lock key. This is the third time in recorded history that something good has come out of all caps yelling. Right after 1983 with the release of Billy Idol's single Rebel Yell, and in 2004 when Derek managed to finally land a date at the nightclub after shouting sweet nothings into Stacy's ear all night. Unfortunately, she had to cancel that date after a series of burst eardrums. Now, these two games follow a long, bloody trail of games that launched in some form of disarray. SimCity has disabled cheater speed due to continuing online issues. Oh god! Ah, god, get away! Get away! Get away! Diablo 3 has finally been released, however, it wasn't the cleanest of launch windows. Wait, why are we going back to 2009? New Game Plus didn't go to air till 2012. Now, as history has taught us, there are two types of launch failures. First are the broken game servers brought upon by a massive influx of players. Now, much like Justin Bieber's career, these servers face an extreme amount of public scrutiny and pressure and then eventually collapse under their own weight. However, these are typically temporary and the games go on to thrive and prosper, much like Justin Bieber's career. In some of these cases, it is sincere developer naivete. Just look at the success of Rocket League. But what about the big AAA developers? These guys should have on them all the social media metrics, all the pre-sales data, all the World Cup predicting octopi. So they should know or have a reasonable guess about how many players will be playing their game on day one. But keep this in mind. Servers are expensive, especially when they're going to just be dumped 2 weeks after the game's release because players move on to the next big title. This doesn't necessarily excuse day one failures, but at the same time, some developers might find it better to divert these funds towards hiring some more testers to try and iron out the ugly bugs, or to hiring some artists so that it can put in some really good looking bugs. And by the way, I now have Sexy Cockroach in my search history, and I humbly accept my entrance onto various government lists. Which brings me to the other type of launch failure, that is the game that was pushed out way too early. These go beyond mere server issues. These games are either unfinished or just broken at their core. Now previously we just took these games as quaint little oddities, such as the grammar crimes that were committed by Big Rig's Your Winner. Now, what do these games have in common? They were installments in multi-million-dollar game franchises, and they had to be released on a specific date, because the shareholders demanded their pound of flesh this financial quarter, because the transmedia comic books had already been commissioned, and because the bottles of branded Mountain Dew were already sitting on the shelves. Fun little aside, Mountain Dew is now associated alongside boner pills and nasal sprays as the product most associated with premature releases. So, what can we do as gamers about all of this? Outrage isn't really a solution here. There's enough of that on the internet. Save your all caps for XCOM 2 or your local Billy Idol karaoke night. Personally, I think a bit of patience is prudent here. Don't necessarily rush out to buy that game on day one unless you know from everyone else that the game is working as intended. Unless that is, you really like flesh mods. Oh god, I'm still not used to that. And that is everything that has happened in the world, ever.
Welcome to Old Game Plus. I'm Oz, this is Dermy, and we're here today to talk about a retro or remake segment on Abe's Odyssey, remade recently as Abe New and Tasty.
And Abe was one of those games back in the PlayStation days that was part of that attitude that it had, that it took a platformer and it made that platformer very grown up in many ways, didn't it?
Yeah, a lot of politics and consumerism kind of sneaked into the background of the world that it was set in.
Yeah, it was very influential. It's obviously the guide for many corporations and governments' workplace relations policies over the decades that followed. But it was also a very, very demanding platformer. You had to be in exactly the right place, and timing was essential.
It was. It was a 2D sprite game. Very good platformer. Very adult. Like even the art style was very adult, a bit gruesome, like for its time. Not by today's standards by any chance, but yeah, you had to be exact. You had to press this button at this time, and so that didn't blow up, and then throw something at this so you could get to that area, and you're very exacting.
And if you didn't rescue all of Abe's workmates from a section before you left, they all got killed.
They all got killed.
So it was a great story, and it's a superb game,
and like a wonderful universe.
Yeah, it was. It was one that they revisited a few more games. But now we have New and Tasty, which is a new take on it. And they've made a few changes. And, well, so far, the changes have been, I guess, they've made it modern, but still kept it as Abe.
Yeah. So they've added more friends to rescue. They've revamped the whole engine. So now it takes place in a 3D engine, Unity, actually, which is amazing for what it can do.
It looks great.
It looks great. And because it's in 3D, some of the camera angles are a bit better for some of the puzzles. And you can see things like secret doors
like
and that.
Trap doors hidden behind things and that.
Yeah.
And just the way it moves looks really good.
Yeah.
And also you don't go room to room anymore. So you don't drop down to a missing room with raindrops above it. Now you can see more of the puzzles on the screen. And it is a game where you go puzzle to puzzle.
Yeah.
But also they've added, to make it modern, they've added a lot of checkpoints. So it's very regular saving in this game.
In the old one, the checkpoints were very far between. Like you'd go 6 or 7 screens before a checkpoint, and now it's every couple of screens you get a checkpoint. So.
The original Abe was it was a rage quitting. It was just the controllers got thrown. And It was so bad. And this one keeps all the puzzles the same. I mean, it's all there. It does introduce some elements from Abe, the next game, Exodus. Yep. And like you can now command multiple Mudokons and. But also that makes it a little bit more not as challenging when you're trying to get them through the slices that come down.
Yeah.
So you're a little bit more to work with there. And so they've introduced something that I think makes the game like Abe's Odyssey, but a little bit different enough that it makes it something.
Also, the control scheme's a bit freer. Like landing in the right place to make that jump that covers that gap is a lot a little bit harder than it used to be.
Yeah, the analog control, and now you can't remap the controls to use the D-pad. The analog control, sometimes you won't quite be on the exact point where you need to make a jump. That's a little bit confusing. A quick note on the Wii U version. I played the Wii U version as well as the Xbox version. The touchpad's not used, unfortunately, for things like the voice commands, and that would have been really, really good. And that's one of the things that annoys me sometimes when you've got that tool there where you could have pressed to say hello, follow me, and so on.
So
they
retro,
just let it go.
Retro or remake?
Oh look, the original was superb. The original was defining. This remake really does a fantastic job of bringing it to today's style of gameplay, today's look, and to an audience that can enjoy this game again in a superb new style. It's really good. I loved it.
I reckon the remake as well. It's available on basically everything.
We were meant for this, Nathan. You, me, together. We were destined for something great.
For those who prove worthy, paradise awaits.
Took a long time for him to get out of this game.
He's meant for this life.
Oh crap!
Last I checked, we're all a bunch of thieves digging around where we shouldn't.
Shame we're not on the same side.
I am a man of fortune, and I must seek my fortune.
So, are you ready to seek your fortune?
Hang on, Nathan!
Where is the artifact?
Heads up!
I made a promise that I was done with this life.
How long have we been chasing this thing?
Long time.
Real long time. Just you and me. No offense to these guys, but they don't get it.
If you're done lying to me, then you should stop lying to yourself.
The biggest pirate treasure of all time is within our grasp.
Push it! Look, Nate, I'm gonna make you a one-time offer. Drop everything. Go home. Live your life. Or we can just end it right here.
There's gotta be another way. I need you on this one.
You ever wonder, like, different choices, how we might have ended up?
No. I like the hand we've been dealt.
My God, that does look pretty, doesn't it, Tim?
They always do.
Yeah.
Like, Naughty Dog has always been awesome at pushing the PlayStation platforms to their limits, and this is their first game on the PlayStation 4. I mean, there was the Uncharted collection, but it wasn't done by them.
That was like almost a test run to see like how Uncharted would work on the current generation, wasn't it?
Yeah, but this new story looks awesome. I've been a fan of the previous 3 games. Certainly played them through at least once, and I love the series, and I think this one's going to be really good.
No, I'm coming out from the other side. I don't play Uncharted for the articles. I'm there for the spectacle, basically. And like the trailer promises all these pieces, and if the game ends up being like the E3 demo, that sprawling open world driving section, then I'm just looking all sorts of forward to this game. But you know what also came out of this trailer? When it initially launched, there was a piece of art in there that was like beach and all, except it was actually concept art from one of the Assassin's Creed games.
I did not hear that, but that's awesome.
So they immediately have to pull it down like as soon as it was noticed, and then replace it. Like along the way, someone had to notice that they put this temp art in and rendered it that entire way. So I'm guessing someone wouldn't have had a fun day at the office.
Hey guys, this is Charlotte from New Game Plus, and I'm joined by Shane, and we're going to be talking about Triforce Heroes, which is basically sort of like Zelda 3 sword adventure for the 3DS.
It's basically an action-adventure game where you go around, if you have friends, with your friends, as 3 people, and I guess to explore these dungeons generated by the game, and if you have the new DLC, is it procedurally generated? I think the dungeons are the new content that's actually been released, but it is a dungeon crawler basically at its core. It's an action adventure just like in normal Zeldas, except you've got 3 players.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So you can play with your friends, you can play with random people online, so you can recruit up to 2 other people to play with. And I found that playing with your friends is actually, it's so much fun. I actually love playing with my friends in Triforce Heroes so much.
But the problem with where is, if you don't have any friends or, you know, you like me, whatever, if you're going to the single player experience, it's much more of a slower game. It's much more of, I guess, a puzzle game because you're switching through the actual 3 heroes because you need to actually get past some elements using the 3 of them. And then you can also just cheese out bosses because the one you're only controlling is the one that can only take damage. So there's a lot of small things that you can, I guess, change as a single player element. It feels like, I guess, the best way to explain it is if you would play Portal 2 co-op, but controlling both. Like, so you've got 4 portals, 2 people, but you're playing both people. It's much more of a puzzle game, I guess, than an action adventure.
Yeah, and also, so you can play, like playing on the single player, it works, but it's not as good as playing with your friends. You can also play online with random people. I mean, that also works. It varies depending on how good they are, but you're really limited in your communication.
But I guess that's where it just, you know, it's much more of a fun game with friends. Like, if you have if you have friends, it's much better because that's where it just shines because it is a very good game once you actually get down to the depths.
Yeah, it's really good. But yeah, playing online with those random people, you can tell people to use items, you can tell people to come over here, you can tell people to pick you up, and that's about the extent of it. I found the best way to play was definitely with friends, either in person or via Skype, so you can actually yell at each other and just be like, hey, come over here, pick me up, or I need you to pick me up, I need this person to pick this person up, and then I'll pick them up, and yeah, it's quite good.
That's it. As a Zelda game, it's got a lot of the things that you expect. Great music. The visuals are, I guess, cutesy if you want to call them.
Really good.
And it's got that, I guess, retro element if you want it, because you've got a retro suit that changes the music to retro music. It's a nice touch, and it just added a lot more, I guess, variation to the game. That said, there's a few small things that I didn't really enjoy too much. The grinding amount, like, if you want to do
get
some
all
of
the new suits and
new suits, and then the challenges that basically not required the suits, but made getting the challenges a lot easier. And it's just a slow grind sometimes, and it just kind of gets really annoying. But that said, if you do have the friends, it's very much worth the pickup.
Yeah, definitely. My friends and I all got it together, and we just played through it together, and it was a lot of fun. Very, very good.
Tim, you've played at least one Zelda game, right?
Yes.
So you are the expert Zelda person out of this conversation. What are your takes on this latest Zelda game?
In my expert opinion, as a Zelda player, I would prefer to play Link to the Past, I think. For like a 3DS title, it relies less on having people close to you playing with the game, but I think Link to the Past is probably a better game as well overall.
Probably, yes, and the dungeons would probably be better designed, but at the same time, like, this sort of experiences they can get out of a multiplayer game like this, the chaos, the trolling, each group of players will have their own unique experience coming out of this one. It's not something you can particularly accuse of the other Zelda games too. Sure, you'll have everyone asking, how did you solve this dungeon? But everyone has the same ending. This one, who knows how you control?
Yeah, it gives you stories like, I mean, even the new Super Mario Brothers where you jump off each other or throw each other off cliffs, and like old Raiding WoW when the priest had the grip move and you'd throw your tanks off edges. It was good fun. But something else that was good fun, you visited White Knight recently.
Yes, thank you to everyone who came along to White Knight, who hung around with us for all 12 hours. It was an absolute blast. Let's do it again sometime soon. But you know what? Let's do it this weekend. A bunch of us will be at the Magic Grand Prix in Melbourne. We'll be playing Modern and we'll be hanging around just slinging magic. So if you're popping along, come see us and say, how do you do?
Yes, that for card games, that's it for this week. Visit our website, www.newgameplusTV.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/NewGamePlusTV.
Follow our Twitter and Instagram at NewGamePlusTV.
And subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch. We are New Game Plus TV.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you, Tim.
We'll see you guys next week.